Yes? Mas Damien, there's a microphone here, so I don't know if you can reach to it or if somebody can get it to you. Damien King. Careful.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, I think there is if I may, a veneer of too much homage and politeness to the movie and the experience that I think is preventing us from having a discussion about some of the real issues with this movie. It's a fantasy to say that Bob's, even though true, that Bob's life can't be told in one movie. You only get one movie. A Bob movie is not going to come out year after next, because this movie has sucked up the energy and the audience interest. So as much as we would like it to be a movie every year, for which this is a teaser, this was the chance that we got. This was the chance that we got to tell the story of a courageous, boundary-smashing revolutionary who sang about war and Africa unite and bombing a church because the preacher was lying, and who wanted to burn down Babylon to get to where the oppressed were liberated and we could get to one love. How did that emerge from somebody who was raised on public lands, sleeping on cold ground, with a rock pillow, being a half-breed? This is a complex, brilliant man who emerged from difficult conditions. That's a story to be told. And the problem is that the family was involved. The problem was that Ziggy was fully involved. If you're going to tell the story of Charles Manson, you're not going to have his son being involved every single day, or his mother. So that was the source of the disservice, to tell the real story of one of the most powerful and important and iconic figures of the century. Now, are we going to, and the problem is that to disagree in a way that this is not the Bob that will go down in history. That is what I fear. That this dorm room poster is the Bob that might go down in history, because this is the Bob that most people of this generation have seen, and not the real, courageous, and proper Bob.
Johnny wants to respond to you. Thank you so much.
Can you?
Johnny, then Diane, then Nathalie. Go ahead.
Okay.
Turn the microphone.
Okay. Everyone who has ever known or seen Bob Marley can tell a story. There's nobody who I know who has not had seen Bob or with him. That they have a long story. He's such a fascinating person. Now, why I'm saying this, I happen to know Esther Anderson. I happen to know Esther Anderson because I was close to Esther when she had her house in Little Bay. I used to visit her. She was doing photography before me, and we used to, the stories that Esther told me about Bob, Bunny, and Peter, they're going to build a studio down there. She had pictures she showed me. There was a life with Esther Anderson, early Bob Marley, before, just after it. That's a story by itself. Bob, Peter, Bunny, Alan Cole, trying to get Bob's work to Never Willoughby at RGR. That's another story. When Bob left, before Bob went over to Chris the promoter, Diane, you remember who was the promoter that Bob did some music with before he came back to Chris? He died recently. And Alan Cole is mixed up with the book. No. Okay. There is another story. Scratch Perry. Hold on. There's another story. Cindy. There are so many stories of Bob Marley, it cannot be told in one episode. That movie is not a movie. It's a movie. It's not a life story. Those who knew Bob like Diane and myself, that doesn't cover anything, really. So if you're going to look at that movie and judge, that's a little nip. There are about 5 more movies of that Bob side can be said.
I totally agree with the person who spoke. I was trying to be as Mr. King. I was trying to be as diplomatic as possible and giving credit and saying it was a tribute to Rita. You are totally right. Where is that Bob Marley, a man from the simple man from the hills, who formed his own record company, who had his own label, who was touring with his own, all that is left out. Why? Don't blame Ziggy. Ziggy was a child in those when Bob even died. They weren't big people who knew the relevance. Maybe up to now they don't know the significance of their father. But so you can't blame them. I blame Neville Garrick. Mr. have his own trailer. Because no, because Neville was around for a few years, and in those years it was the side of Bob that he was exposed to. Was Bob the entertainer? Bob the ladies man, because I think he double dated with one time. So that is the aspect of it. I didn't see Garrick there when the peace concert was being done. I didn't see Garrick in the ghetto when Bob was there with his brethren. No, but his daughter said Garrick was a good friend, and maybe Bob was his best friend. But was he Bob's best friend? I don't know. Was people like Skill Cole consulted? I don't think so. Somebody played me, but nobody ever asked me whatever dialogue I was there or what happened. But I guess Neville Garrick contributed to that dialogue. Who did it then? I don't say don't do that, because all I'm saying that nobody said to me, and nobody I know consulted Judy Mowatt, Master Griffiths, or any of those persons about what Bob, reality of Bob. So what you're getting is a commercial, palatable Bob. Bob the entertainer, Bob the, whatever. That is the Bob they're presented, and you're right. Who knows if there'll be another Bob Marley movie? There should be, but, and how many people have seen it more than once? I don't know. Is that, any movie that American Bob should be on the line for Oscar and whatever, Grammy. Is this one? No. So, but it's commercially, it's a success. Everybody's going to see it at least one time, and this is the image they're going to leave with Bob. Bob will get Bob's vibe return.
That's hot.
I don't know if I really want to answer, but I will answer. I disagree that the series can't be made. The series can be made. It can still be made. Johnny named some of the episodes, and there can be more, and people will watch. How many people in here saw the Kevin McDonald documentary on Marley? That was made 12 years ago, and that told every side. Go home, go on to, what is it? Amazon, Netflix, it's there. That is a documentary that tells the entire life of Bob Marley, interviewing his relatives, interviewing friends, people who knew him, and that tells the entire story. and then you will understand how it is. But it's a documentary. This is admittedly a commercial version, entertainment, and it was successful. It opened the mind to the music of Bob Marley. And I beg to differ with the people who were consulted. I don't know if they took anything they got from it, but I was there for Judy Mott's interview. I mean, I know that Marcia Griffith was spoken to. I remember you came down to the Rock and spoke to the director. Skill, I was not there. I was not sitting at the table with you. Anyway, I remember Skill coming, but I knew Skill was not cooperative because Skill felt that he knew Bob better than anybody else. But since this story was told around England, and we know that Skill was not in London, he was gone to Africa. Yeah. So. No, it wasn't, but that is what the film was about, mostly of Bob in London and the production of the album Exodus. That was what it was about. And, but I disagree. I mean, this is a part about, I think it is a teaser, I think it is a taste, and I think anybody who took those, what Johnny mentioned, those chapters, those episodes, the episode of Skill himself is 2 episodes, because Skill was Bob's best friend. Bob wanted to be Skill and Skill wanted to be Bob. Now, I met Bob Marley only a couple times because I used to be a fixer in those days. And so when European people would come to do interviews at 56, I would accompany them and set up, and Bob would run past my house at East King's House Road often and say, "Daughter." That, I mean, you know, but I can't say I knew the man. But I worked on Kevin's documentary, and I also worked with Jonathan Demme, who was making the documentary before Kevin. But his story was rejected. Why? Because Demme told the story of Rasta and Bob. And it was not commercial enough for Steve Bing at the time to put that on the air. So he wanted a straight documentary of the life, which Kevin told very well. Jonathan's story kind of got very deep into Rasta, but showed how Bob was influenced by Rastafarian. That has not been seen by anybody. I had a chance to see it before Jonathan Demme passed, and now Steve Bing has also passed, so I don't know where the footage is. I think it's with Demme's footage at the University of Michigan or the University of Chicago or somewhere like that.
You know, one of the things, I'm coming to you, Justine, it's good to hear the institutional memory. And we've been talking about writing and putting down stuff, Nathalie. I hope you've consulted somebody to get your stuff down. Yes, no, please. No, it's very important. So don't please and cut your eye after me, right? Once again, I want to thank the people online. Did we have any opportunity? Are they just watching, or is there any way that if they pose questions we could know? Yeah? If you pose questions we can know and then we can share it. Okay. Justine.
Yeah. So again, Damien, I hear you, but I disagree with you. Because I think what it has done is it has opened up Jamaica and Jamaican stories again in a way that we did not have an opportunity for before. So now people are talking about not just stories about Bob, but a whole universe of Jamaican stories that need to be told, and for the first time we've had a commercial success of a movie that's completely a Jamaican subject. That has never happened before, right? How Did They Come 52 years ago was a creative and critical success. It was not a commercial success. And no film that has come out of Jamaica has been a commercial success, and it is a business. And if we want to keep working and if we want to keep employing hundreds of Jamaicans in front of the camera and behind the camera, we have to make it a business. So we need to understand that side of things. The fact that the government saw the success of Marley, saw that the investment has paid off, and now has put $1 billion Jamaican dollars towards supporting the creation of Jamaican stories. That for me is the biggest win of the Marley movie, is the fact that we get to tell more Jamaican stories by Jamaicans. We don't Bob is one person and one set of stories. There are many, many stories to tell from our island. And we have to make sure that the youth of the country have a chance to give their perspective. You know, basically, if you're 18 years old and Jamaican, you can apply to the JSDI for development money to talk about the story you want to tell on camera, whether it's a short film, a documentary, a feature, or an animation. That's important. There are Jamaicans all over with stories, with cameras on their phones, and there are stories to be told, 1 million of them.
When Paramount was at the university a few evenings ago, the new architecture theatre, Neville Hall Theatre, sorry, I'm dating myself, the Neville Hall Lecture Theatre, was packed to capacity. There were no empty chairs there. And it's not 20 or 30 people fit in that place. Right? 400 about. And you see, perhaps if you're not involved in the industry, you don't know that there are some young filmmakers in this country. And doing, I'm coming, I see 2 hands there. I saw yours first, my sister. Yeah, I saw your hand first. But there is the Women in Film and Television Jamaica chapter, there's JAFTA, these things are happening, and they're showing their movies in the Caribbean and outside of the Caribbean. It's not where we want it to be, but things are happening. And you have screenwriters and directors and, you know, so things are there. My sister, I didn't know you're not in St. Vincent.
I'm back home.
Oh, good. Welcome home.
No, this is very frightening because I'm agreeing with Damian King. I'm Maureen Weber, and it's very frightening because I'm agreeing with Damian, so we're in trouble. Listen, I get all the wonderful commercial things, but in a country like particularly ours, and I speak about the region and probably globally, where the youth and other persons are not motivated and activated on the basis of real issues and concerns, to leave that part of the story out, to leave the Exodus part of the story out for the Joyride story, to me, is an injustice to the political space and what his message was. And I really have to say that I hear all the things that are being achieved, or the commercial things, those are good things. But a country where 30% of the people vote, because they don't get issues, is not a country that I want us to live in. So that's my point.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you. You have a question, please.
I have a question and a comment.
Indeed.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, very much.
My name is Kathy Thompson. So it's a pleasure to be here. I really am very pleased that we have this forum. I'm extremely pleased that you brought out, because I think everybody on the panel is very careful with their words, which at first I appreciated, you know, because there's no need for any animosity or any sort of disgruntledness. But I really appreciate that you brought out. But a friend of mine told me something once, and she said, Kathy, look through the windscreen and not through the rearview mirror. And to me, we need to separate the business from who Bob Marley is, because he continues to be, in from my point of view. And maybe those of us who understand the importance of social justice and the fact that he promoted it not just in Jamaica, but worldwide. In many ways, he's a prophet, you know, in my opinion. Yes. So I think we should take this as a way to move forward, because we can't do, the movie's already done, right? So that's why I said look through the windscreen and not through the rearview mirror. And for sure, I appreciate that you explained to us how the business is all about and everything. But from my point of view, it's the message that's more important. So I end with a question, if I could, to Ms. Jobson. Could you tell us what you think the highlight of, because you said perhaps the highlight of who Bob was not portrayed in the movie? Do you mind sharing with us your thoughts?
Well, as I said, the Bob Marley who was the businessman, the Bob Marley who was the mystic, the Bob Marley, the Rastaman, and the message of Rastafari. The little snippets of the Rastaman and the man portraying Planner and all that is not getting that message through. To me, if I was to have done a movie, I would have called it Bob Marley, the Last Prophet.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, I appreciate all the fringe benefits that has flown from this movie and the building up and the benefit to the entertainment and the film industry and all that. But that surely is not what the main thing about a Bob Marley movie would be. The fringe benefits and the spin-offs. It's not the main thing, We should have a movie. Hey, I really appreciate all the effort and the money and how every person I know who I've met who worked on this movie said how important it was to them to be there and just being on that Bob Marley movie and the honor and how they wanted it to be so perfect. So all these little details, the clothes, this, that, but the essence of the movie, the script, that is where all the fine details should have been put in and worked out. And not the whole money spending on this and that and clothes and the little fringe thing.
Well, that is part of a movie.
Yes, it's part and it's important.
Yeah, very important part.
I appreciate how much has gone in, but I don't want to say how much I would have appreciated more if all this work had gone into a movie that I could look at and say,
Hans, I saw the lady first before I saw you, Mr. McIntosh. Is that Mr. McIntosh? No, I can't. Just a moment. Just before I come to you, I think Nathalie, by the way, I love it. Bob Marley, the Last Prophet. I love that. But Nathalie wanted to comment. I think she's going to approach Paramount.
No, are you hearing me?
Yeah.
I just want to say I don't think we are disagreeing with each other. I don't think we are at odds. This movie was a commercial movie. It's a biopic, and biopics are normally, they dip into fiction. And we know that there is some fiction in this movie. We went, that whole thing in England was a little fictional. And we admit that. And we have let Paramount have its day, and we look at it as a teaser. Maybe somebody will put forward the money to do this series because there are different stories in Bob's life which can be told as a story. It cannot be done for free.
All right.